Well, hey friends, it's me, Micah, and this is the Homestead Bandwagon. How are you doing today? See, I can't hear your response because this is a video, but I hope you're doing good. Well, I'm getting ready to do some puttering today. We're going to take the tractor and put it into brush clearing mode, and I thought I'd do a little talking about clearing land. The knee-jerk reaction we always have when the knee-jerk reaction folks tend to have when they buy a big piece of land that's been kind of overgrown is you got to get out there and clear it. And that's not entirely incorrect, but there's some things you should consider before doing that clearing. What I start to thinking whenever I am getting ready to go clear some brush is three big questions, and that's what I wanted to talk about today before I go do some gnarly brush destroying with the tractor. And those three questions are really simple. When I'm considering clearing land, the first thing I ask is, should I? The second thing I ask is do I have a plan? The third thing I ask is, can I afford it? Can I afford the money and the time it will take to both clear the land and then maintain that land after we've cleared it? It's very important to maintain an area you've cleared. So when my family and I came out to this property to start working on it, it was an absolute jungle. The front portion of the property was accessible, but anywhere possible for things to grow, things did grow, which is how nature works, of course. But we're talking about grass 8 feet tall in the front area where the lawn was, and everything at the barn and backwards. So a majority of the property was covered with blackberries. Now, these aren't your normal cutesy, grandma's jam blackberries. These are our local scourge, the Himalayan blackberry. And if you've never seen a Himalayan blackberry before, well, you're lucky. They're terrible. Let's see if we can show you some. We've knocked them back pretty good, but we'll kind of show you an example here of what we were dealing with when we came here. So we've done a good job of pushing these things out to the fence lines, but any area that you don't stay on top of gets overgrown again. So for example, we got this little stand of brush trees here, and growing up inside them, well, here's a dead one. So this is a big blackberry vine growing up into the canopy of these trees. Here's some more dead ones. Here's some more half dead. And then inside is a bunch of live stuff. So we killed them last year and they just come back for more. And so these are very, very, very young blackberries here in a big thicket. And even at this ripe young age, they are a pain to deal with. They're spiky, they're spiny. There's no fruit on these. And when they do fruit, it's very little. And they grow all the way up into the canopy of these trees. They will choke out any life that's around them. You can see how they just grow in these clumps here and then just shoot up into the canopy, and they're so stinking hard to deal with because they're just incessant. They won't stop. And this place was covered in them. I mean, acres and acres and acres of blackberries. And we set out to clear them and make this property usable. But let's go back to the first question. Should I? Should you clear that land? You just bought this land. It's all yours, right? No, of course, it's not all yours. I mean, it's yours, but let's get real here. We don't own the land, okay? We are stewards of the land. In reality, we are caretakers of the land. And no matter how much you paid for the land, somebody can take it from you. Something can take it from you. You will pass away someday. Your ancestors will pass away someday. The land is not yours in perpetuity. It has been here before you. It will be here after you. So should you clear the land? Can you legally clear it? And if you do clear that land, was it the right thing to do? You know, are you causing some ecological disaster? Are you destroying a salmon spawning habitat? Are you taking away the last nesting place of a nearly extinct species? We should know these things. Are you cutting down trees that are 1,000 years old? Is that the right thing to do? You know, should you clear that land? The second thing, of course, do you have a plan? So I had this guy, I was helping him work on some land, and he just loved his chainsaw, and he'd go out and cut down every tree in sight and just anything that was kind of in his way. And he never had a plan for what to do with it. And it caused a disaster, because then instead of having trees in the sky that weren't taking up much room, he had piles of tree parts everywhere, and it made the land less usable than it had been. So have a plan for what you're going to do with the stuff. You know, don't just go out there and do it, have a plan. And then the third thing, can you afford it? It's expensive maintaining land. You know, clearing land is expensive too. I've seen people come in to the shop I work at, and they want to go, you know, buy a weed whacker, buy a chainsaw, and maybe buy a push mower, and think that they're going to be able to take care of 5 acres like that. And that's just not altogether true. When we came out to this place, it was impassable. You couldn't really walk to anything past the house. You know, the grass was 8 feet tall. The blackberries were impenetrable. It cost a lot of money. You know, had to get a tractor to just get the job done. And then it costs money to maintain. And it also takes time. You know, that we put in a new pasture, and that pasture takes hours and hours and hours to mow, because we don't have animals on it yet, because I want to establish that pasture. And then we have to buy fencing. Fencing is expensive, and we have to fence everything in, and everything's expensive, you know. So, you know, it's always the question, can you afford the money and time to do the thing you're doing? It's easy to tear it down, but the hard thing is to keep it maintained. That's the time suck. That's the money suck. That's the thing you're doing every day of your life once you tear an area down, is keeping it in the condition that you brought it to. Otherwise, you're just wasting your time and money, right? Or making more problems. Let me go show you a couple examples of what I'm talking about here, and hopefully it gives you a good perspective on land clearing. Okay, I'm out at one of my favorite areas, which is what I call the upper pasture, which is got 3 really distinct sections, or 4 distinct sections that I think really showcase land clearing and the considerations that go into it. So the first one's a success. I am so happy with this place right here. This used to be completely covered in blackberries. 6, 7, 8 foot tall blackberries. These are nasty, nasty Himalayan blackberries. They're enormous. They choke out all life under them. They kill trees. They grow into the canopy of trees. This is an area that I kind of cut down. I mean, look at these guys, big old thorns on them. There's no fruit on these. They'll fruit a little bit, but they make it real hard to get to their fruit. They're useless. They're invasive. They are choking out this area of the forest. And you can kind of see the tree canopy. Well, I can't see it from there, but these tops of these trees are all dying. These blackberries just suck all the nutrients out of the ground and use them for themselves and kill everything under them. So once you cut them, just bare earth underneath. So there, right here is, I mean, this is where I've drawn a line. You know, you shall not pass, right? I am trying to keep them beaten back as much as I can. And here is a success story. This is where we successfully cut down all the blackberries, replanted pasture, and through management are keeping the blackberries back, but they're still trying to come back. They just don't quit. And I'm telling you, poisoning them, it doesn't do much. It takes years and years and years with poison to get rid of them. I just mow them, and mowing them down keeps them mitigated. You know, eventually maybe we'll bring in some goats or something, and maybe they'll eat them. We'll cross our fingers. But this is a success. This is an area where we decided, yeah, it's a good idea to clear an invasive species. We had a plan. After we got rid of the invasive species, we went through a process to kill them, or at least knock them back pretty good, and then replant something that could outcompete them pretty well. And then we have the time to come through here and mow and take care of this area. So all the way up to the front of the property. we take care of it. And this was all covered in blackberries. There's still a lot around these trees, but you fight the battles that you can win. So right now we have won this battle. Might not have won the war. The war is ongoing. You know, they keep trying to grow back. Okay, but yes, it was a good idea to do. So we should do it. Yeah, we had a plan going in, and yes, you know, we had the time and money to do it. We could afford to do it. Now, if we walk further back here, I got an example of a different kind of place. Look at these blackberries. They're all over. But thankfully we have a nice little trail cut through here so we can actually get to this area. And this is all I mowed a week or two ago. It's all growing back. But here we come into this beautiful Cedar Grove. These are all cedar trees. This is probably second or third growth cedar. And if you notice, it self-manages. There's no blackberries growing in here. There was blackberries right behind me, right there, and they stop. Because these cedar trees take care of themselves. They replaced the scrub brush, and they're not threatened by the blackberries yet. And they've been here for years. And a lot of people will see these cedar trees, and they've told us, hey guys, you should go through and harvest them. There's a lot of money there. Take down all those cedar trees. You're just wasting money by not doing it. You know, and that's one of those questions. Should you clear this? You know, and I don't think so. I think that's bad stewardship. This is a self-sustaining ecosystem that's been here a long time, way before me. And I wish you could see this stump over here. There's a giant stump. And years ago, this was all clear cut. This was all forest where I'm at. You know, and somebody cleared it because they thought it would be a better idea. And, you know, maybe they needed to. Maybe they needed to eat. But I don't need this forest. You know, this forest is more important than me. So the first question that comes up is, should you do it? And the answer in this case is no. No, I shouldn't. I should leave this alone. If anything, we should work to protect it. Okay, so we saw a success story where I cleared an invasive species. It ticked all the boxes. I got another area we're not going to touch because we shouldn't. I'll show you an area here. Well, you're kind of seeing it. Walking through this path, you know, all we had was blackberries, just invasive species in here. So, yeah, we should clear it. So we'll check that one off. But as an afterthought, after cutting in the pasture, I got a wild hare up my rear end one day, and I cleared this little area. And it's not real big, okay? It's a small area, but I cut it. And it made sense to cut it because it was covered in blackberries. But this was all clear earth. But I didn't have a plan for what to do with it. I didn't have more seeds to put pasture grass in. And I kind of just cleared it just to clear it. And the problem I have now is these guys. So this is a bunch of noxious weeds that moved in. And they are poisonous to livestock. And they're right next to the pasture that we've established through good management. And I didn't have a plan to manage this place, and now these things moved in. You know, there was a bunch of logs laying down in here, and so I couldn't get in here with the mower. I didn't make a good plan to take care of this little area. And there's another area down there by a creek that I also had the same problem with. So now I've got poisonous plants that replaced a plant that was basically just a nuisance, right? The blackberries suck. You know, you can't walk through them, you can't eat them, you can't do nothing with them, they poke you, but at least they're not poisonous, and there's just bare dirt under them. Well, these guys, they're poisonous. So that's a failure on my part. You know, it was a place I should clear. You know, it was because it was under blackberries. The blackberries are doing no good, but I didn't have a plan. I should have come in with a plan to outcompete them, get rid of the logs that were in there, and, you know, get ready for it to be a little bit of an extension to the pasture here. So that was my mistake. Now it's going to take me more time and effort in planning to get rid of these. Okay, so yeah, I should have cleared them. I obviously have the time to clear them. I have the time to manage it. It's a small area, but I didn't plan. Then we got this area. So we're, you know, we have our little battleground going on here, and we've got all these trees, and these trees are dead and dying. These are just scrub brush, alders and cottonwoods. They are part of the forest life cycle. You know, they die so that others may live, but they fix problems in the soil. So after a forest burns down, these are the first trees that show up, and they make a nice place for other plants to grow. Problem is, the blackberries moved in because of a lack of management, and here they are. They're choking out everything underneath. So these trees are going to die. The blackberries are just going to proliferate all over them, and it's going to be a real pain in the butt to deal with this area. So we should certainly clear it. And I do have a plan for clearing this. My plan is to cut these trees down. They're already rotten. I have a plan for what to do with them. I have stuff we do with rotten wood. I have a plan for getting the stumps out, because you have to get the stumps out so you can get in here and mow. Problem is, I don't have the money or the time to do it right now. Taking the stumps out takes a lot of time. And then we've got our water lines, our water sources up here. Our water lines run right through these trees. I don't have the money to replace those water lines right now, because I guarantee you we'd hit them and tear them out if I cleared those trees out and pulled all the stumps. So, right, this isn't checking off the boxes. You know, it's a good idea to do it. I have a plan for what to do, but I don't have the time or the money to do it. So it sits. We're just going to leave it alone. We're going to live and let live. The blackberries have their border. I have my border. That's fine. We'll just deal with it for now. You know, if I just went in there all gung-ho, I'd be messing up more than I'm fixing. So that's all I know. If you're going to be doing some land clearing, those are things you really should consider before doing it, so you don't end up in quite the pickle. It's a thing I see time and time again. People come in, decide to clear cut their place just down to raw bare earth, cut down all the trees, chop them up, pile up all the wood, and then the next season, because they're exhausted by the end of that season, the next season, all the weeds have grown up all over all the wood, and now they have a bigger problem than they started with. New invasive species come in. There was no plan in place to clear and maintain. You know, they didn't take it in steps. They would just come through a place like this. So these are trees that are scrub trees. They're considered weeds growing in the middle of our pasture. And instead of just coming through and knocking all these down, we use this as part of our plan. So these trees will keep this pasture cool. If we're running animals through here, you know, they'll have some places to shelter. You know, we came up with a plan before we just wholesale cleared everything. We want to take it in little chunks. You know, our plan for mitigating the blackberries is we limb these trees up and we selectively clear them out so we can fit the mowers in between them until we get animals out here that might want to munch on these blackberries. But they'll limb these guys up so we still have a canopy. We still have a canopy here to keep the ground cool, keep animals cool, but we can still get around the bases of them easier to mitigate, you know, this invasive plant, these blackberries. Yeah, that's it. Hey, I hope you all are treating each other well. You know, let's practice a little kindness. Let's take care of that which we've been blessed with, and take care of each other. We'll see you soon.